Well, hello and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm preparing a meal that does take about 45 minutes of prep time, but it's not complicated, and the end result is a mouth-watering plate full of real food that's real simple and really good. I'm making a crispy pork tenderloin with cheesy pasta. So come along with me, I'll show you how I do this. Now the first step is to trim the excess fat and the silver skin off the tenderloins and slice them about 1.5 inches thick. Now if you don't want to use pork, this breading that I'm going to use would be very good on chicken tenders or chicken breast as well. So you could certainly substitute that very easily. Now once I get the medallions cut and I pat them dry to get off some of that excess moisture, then I'll prepare the components for the breading. So each component of the breading process has a purpose, and when you know what each one does, it's easier to remember the order. Now to get a nice coating that won't cook off or peel away when it's browned in the fat, the breading needs something to stick to. So the first problem that we need to solve is that if the protein is wet or even slightly damp, it's difficult for things to stick to it. So this will hold true for chicken or beef or pork or fish or venison, and you can pat them dry with a paper towel, but that's not quite enough. It needs to be dredged in flour. Now the purpose of the flour is to provide that dry surface, and you can use almond flour, coconut flour, or even a blend of flour and cornstarch or other flours. Now the breading I'm going to use for these pork medallions is a blend of Panko and Parmesan cheese. You could also use crushed crackers or potato chips or breadcrumbs, things like that. Now obviously the breading's not going to stick to the flour. A liquid that will develop a sticky consistency with the flour is needed. You could use buttermilk, yogurt, even Dijon mustard. They'll all work. I'm going to use a mixture of egg and milk. Now to enhance the flavor of these pork medallions, I will put a light application of garlic, herb salt, and black pepper on both sides of the pork medallions. And then another layer of seasoning will be in the flour. I will add 1/2 teaspoon of popcorn salt, which I like to use in the breading process because it's very fine and it incorporates really well in the flour. I'll also use a little bit of fine ground white pepper in that flour mixture. And then the panko has a little bit of flavoring to it, and of course the Parmesan cheese will add a really nice umami flavor to that breading. Now, after all the medallions are coated with the breading, I will set them aside for about 20-30 minutes for the coating to set up and fully adhere to the protein before it is browned in the fat. Okay, while the medallions are resting, I'm going to go ahead and put the cheesy pasta together. So cook the pasta according to the directions on the box, and then drain and set it aside. In the same pan that you cook the pasta in, melt the butter, add a little bit of flour, whisk it together, and cook for 3 or 4 minutes. Then whisk in the milk and cook until it begins to thicken. Then we'll season it with 1 teaspoon of onion powder, just a little bit of salt, maybe 1/2 teaspoon, and a little bit of pepper. Don't over season with salt at this point because the cheese does have a lot of salt in it. I will also use a little parsley and 1/2 cup of sour cream, and we will blend that and stir until it's heated through. Okay, once you've got the sour cream stirred in and the mixture is hot again, then we'll add the American cheese and the grated cheeses and reserve just a little bit of the grated cheeses for garnish. We'll stir that until it's melted and creamy. And then now is a good time to give it a taste and correct any seasoning. It might need a little more black pepper, possibly a little more salt. And then in a buttered casserole dish, add your pasta. Pour over the cheese sauce and give it a little stir until it's incorporated. And then we'll garnish with the rest of the grated cheese. I like to put a little sweet red pepper flake and parsley for garnish. And then we'll set this aside. Okay, the medallions have been resting for about 20-30 minutes while we put together the cheesy pasta, and we can now brown them up. I'm going to be using about 1/3 of a cup of ghee. You could use butter or any neutral oil of your choice. Now we're just going to brown them. We're not trying to cook them through. We're just looking for a nice golden brown crust on these pork medallions. And then we will put them on a cookie sheet that has a rack on it, and we will finish cooking them in the oven. Okay, the pork medallions are browned and ready for the oven. I will cover the mac and cheese and it will sit right beside them, and we will bake both in a 375-degree oven for about 20 minutes. That'll give me time to find a vegetable as a side dish and get my kitchen cleaned up. Okay, let's do a taste test. Pork tenderloin, encrusted in a panko with a little Parmesan, and fried in ghee. Oh, it's yummy. It's super tender and moist, crunchy. Checks off all the boxes. Let's see about this mac and cheese. I can tell it's really, really hot. That tenderloin is wonderful. Oh yeah, I like that mac and cheese. It's so simple, but very, very flavorful. Cheesy, but not overly salty. The noodles are not mushy. It's just got really nice balance of flavor. And this is just a real simple vegetable medley I had in the freezer because I didn't have any fresh vegetables, believe it or not. I gotta go grocery shopping tomorrow. But they're good. A little butter and salt and pepper. It's a very nice meal. Now I'm gonna go sit down and enjoy the rest of this. Thanks for joining me today.